Hello, welcome to The Good Life. Thank you for stopping by. I have a friend with me today. His name's Chris Newman. He's an actor, a producer, and he was also my acting coach. Um, he's a really, really great guy, very down to earth, but incredibly talented. And we have a lot to talk about today. Everything from his career to potential tax credits coming back in Michigan, maybe, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's just jump in. Chris, thank you very much for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I hope you're doing well. You know, all the kids and the wife doing all right.
Kids and wife are doing good. As good as can be expected.
Yeah.
Doing the online classes and all that stuff, and just figuring it out like everybody else. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know my niece and nephew in particular have been doing the online class stuff, and they're at the point where they're just like zombies with it. You know, it's getting tough, but hopefully we can get things squared away and get things moving in a more positive direction again. Now we met in your acting class. I was a student in your acting class. And I remember looking up, because at the time I was looking for an acting class, and I was looking to try to see, which ones I should take and where and everything. And I remember I had multiple people tell me, take Chris Newman's class. And
I want names. Who are they? Name names.
I don't release my sources, but
oh, okay.
No, but yeah, I mean, it was, and I remember walking in first day, and I could just tell that it was going to be a class that I enjoyed and I was going to learn from. And because there are those classes that are kind of a scam, and they act like they're teaching you something when really by the end of it you're like, what, did I really learn anything? But I learned so much in your class, and I learned especially like with audition technique of using, and it stuck with me ever since you said it. But I remember you saying the biggest goal is to turn all of your nerves, turn that nervous energy that would usually work against you, like get it to work for you. And ever since then, any audition that I've ever had, whether it's been in person, well, now mostly in self-tapes, but all of them, I've been much more relaxed, calm, understanding that, it's not like they want me to fail, right? Because that was another thing that you said, was they want you to succeed.
Right. They want to find that piece to the puzzle so they can move on to the next piece. So we as actors, we walk in there and we try to appear confident and, I've got it all together, but inside we're all kind of quaking a little bit, and it's good. That's not to say that that's a bad thing. I think if you're not nervous, you don't care. And it's like what you just said, you want those nerves to work for you and not against you, because sometimes you can freeze up and you get so in your head, and what are they thinking and what do they want, and so it takes time to get to that point. You have to be comfortable with yourself. You have to be comfortable and confident in your abilities, in where you're going with the audition, and that all comes down to preparation. So I think the more prepared you can be, the less the bad nerves are going to take over. It's only, in early on in my career, and every audition is different. But you'll walk in there and you didn't prepare the best you could,
Yeah.
And it's then that the nervous stuff starts to take over. So it's kind of a twofold thing. The more prepared you can be, and the more confident in your abilities and more confident in your preparation you can be, the bad nerves will kind of dissipate, but it takes time. It takes time to do that. And I will say self-tape is kind of alleviates that walking into a cold room you know, with people you may have never met before, or, you know, oh God, this is the big, and you know, you're in there, it's a director's session. So you got the director and the producers, all names you've heard before.
Yeah.
This is for a show that you watch and that you love. And, you know, the tension can be high sometimes, but yeah, if you can, it all comes down to preparation and, you know, a healthy confidence in yourself and your abilities. But yeah.
Why is it that audition rooms are always so cold? They are.
I meant cold in, I don't mean temperature wise, but
no, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but also every audition room I've ever gone in, it's always freezing in there. And so I always get shaky at that point. I'm like, oh, because I'm physically cold, you know.
And then I start going, am I shaking because I'm nervous, or am I shaking because I'm cold?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Well, I think it's the same as, like, remember in school, like school classrooms felt cold.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because they want to keep you awake. Like, you don't want to be falling asleep in the waiting room. They're calling your name. Patrick? Arnie? You're like sleeping in the corner because,
what?
Oh man, it's just so toasty in here. It's so comfortable.
Drool off my chin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, okay, let's do this.
It's funny though, because you know, when you had said like preparation and everything is, I mean, it's always better to over prepare than under prepare. And I think every actor, I think, has done this, but I learned that the hard way, thinking that I prepared enough, right? I thought I prepared enough. And all it takes when you didn't prepare fully, all it takes is just one little thing to throw you off. And I remember I went into an audition one time, and typically auditions, they're always running late, right? Well, as I was on my way, I think I had like an hour and 15-minute drive or something like that. I get an email saying we're running ahead of schedule. And I was like, okay, in what world are auditions running ahead of schedule? Right. I thought it was kind of a last minute audition anyway, but I thought like, oh, I know this guy, like I'm good. Like I know the lines.
Yeah.
I get there and I kid you not, like I'm signing in and they open the door and go, oh, you're okay. You're here. Yep. Are you next? And I said, well, who went, but you know, who just went? And I looked on the sheet and it was the person right before me. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like I didn't even have time to take my coat off.
You made it. Yeah, I know. You made it, which is good.
Yeah. And
you were in there when they called for you, but
exactly. And yes, but I walked in just completely bombed. And of course they had the director streaming in. And so he's watching on his computer and I'm supposed to be like, and I wasn't made aware of this from the sides or anything, but I'm supposed to be holding this gun. So they give me a prop, you know, and I'm holding this like machine gun. And I'm like, oh, all right. Sweet. And then they told me to read off the cue cards. They had cue cards.
Oh, no.
So that way I wouldn't have to memorize. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. How am I supposed to do all these actions if I'm staring at some cue cards? It was just a nightmare. I was so like out of it. And I remember when I got done, the director was like, all right, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in. Great. And then he like shut off his video and everything. And he was waiting for the next person. And even the guy that was in the room with me was like, oh, that was awesome. Great. Like while the director was on. And then the second the director got off, he goes, all right, thanks for coming in. We'll contact you if we want to see you again. And I was like, oh, damn. It's like, that was it.
You can never read into comments.
No.
They give, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good or indifferent, because you might think, oh God, what they just said. Oh, I failed. Oh God, it's miserable. They didn't heap praise on me. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for all you know, they could have loved it. They just can't, show that preference a lot of times. But some auditions, man,
what was your worst audition you ever had? Like your worst experience? Not necessarily you were bad, but like your worst experience. I know.
I told you guys.
But I told you guys that one. I would love if you're willing.
And now I'm going to go worldwide with this.
I would love it. I would love to hear it.
There are so many. Do I choose that one, or do I choose any of the myriad of bad auditions? Um,
Not to put you on the spot, you know.
Okay, I will tell it because it's an important story for actors and you know, actors coming up, and this is life experience. And it kind of ties into what you went through with, you know, you're driving to an audition that's not relatively close. I mean, in an hour and a half or whatever drive, like it takes some time, and there could be traffic in there. There could be, I remember one time going to Chicago, and this isn't this story, but it was February, and I had plenty of time. I, you know, woke up at this. If I wake up at this time, showered, dressed, breakfast, the whole thing, out of the house by this, I should get there, and that's with the hour behind that they are. I'm good to go. So I'm off. Everything's great. I hit this blizzard. I checked the weather. No snow.
Yeah.
Whether Michigan, whether in Chicago, no snow on the radar at all. I hit this blizzard, and I tell you, I cannot see 10 feet in front of me. And I'm white knuckling it at 60, 65.
Yeah.
And cars spin off into the ditch, and I'm right next to this semi truck, and I'm this because I got to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you can just count on things popping up.
Yeah.
But the worst audition story I had. I was on set, my last day on set for a film, and I get this call from my agent saying, you know, hey, we sent you an email. I don't typically have my phone on me on set, and what I was wearing was a movie called Ovid and the Art of Love. I had a toga, so there was no. Well,
like duct tape
nowhere I could put my phone.
Pockets.
So you know, I'm in the makeup chair and getting all the stuff off and all that. I get this call. Hey, you know, we sent you an email. You have an audition in Chicago on Friday. Can you go? I'm like, okay, so I check the email, and it's you know, for a show. And I called back. It was like 6:05 or something. You know, I said, hey, I just got your message. Yeah, I'm available. Let me know what it is, because there was no details. And I said, let me know what it is. And this is Wednesday evening. Auditions Friday, 4:30 p.m. Cool. Thursday, nothing. Thursday morning, we're into the afternoon. I talked to my manager at the time, and I said, I got this audition on Friday and I haven't heard anything yet. He said, okay, well, let me find out. Well, he makes it happen. I finally get the sides, 7 pages, all like technical jargon. I'm playing like an IT guy. And so it's, you know, you got to wrap your head around that, and you have all these terms have to just flow off your tongue like it's, you know, you're saying your name.
Yeah.
And so, you know, say, okay, well, I was already kind of psyched out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is not where you want to be. Like, and having been to Chicago once, I took a train. So I was like, if I take the train, that'll give me time to work on it some more. You know what I mean? So I, you know, get the train ticket. I go to my manager's place and work on it. You know, just we put it on tape, worked it till it felt like organic. There was like 3 scenes or something. And all right, came home. It was like midnight. I'm like, okay, I got to be up at 4. And in the whole business, so 4, shower, get dressed, shave, you know, the whole thing, eat breakfast, whatever. And I hit the train station. You know, train picks me up at 6 a.m. or whatever, 5 a.m. I don't even know. It was a long time ago. And everything was fine. I'm on the train. I didn't bring my charger. a little foreshadowing here, because I was like, who's it's a train, like they're not going to have outlets and things, you know what I mean? Like, but they do have outlets. You can charge your phone. I didn't know. I was like, I'm going to be there, in and out, boom, back on the train at 6, and I'll be good. So I'm on the train, trying to rest, trying to work on the thing. Train drops off at like 1 p.m, which is like noon there. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna, grab some lunch, kind of hang out a little bit, and then I'll go over to the to where the audition was, and still working on it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna start heading over. Well, I asked somebody, I said, hey, where's this particular location? And it was like, well, Michigan Avenue runs like 8 miles long, so you got to kind of know where you're going. I was like, oh, okay. I every rookie move, Patrick, like I pulled it, and I was not a rookie at this time. Like, I was just off my game. It's just one of those auditions, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna take a cab. I'm gonna get there. I'll pop into a Starbucks and hang out, grab coffee, just chill out, and I can just walk over. Well, this place is in an industrial location. There's nothing around, nothing. So I'm like, I go up to the guy at the lobby. I'm like, can I just like hang out? My audition's not for like 3 hours. Is it cool if I just like hang out in the lobby? He's like, oh yeah, it's fine. So just sitting there waiting, meanwhile, the battery is on the phone is going down.
Yep.
Uber really wasn't a thing yet. It was around, but like it wasn't
popular yet.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't figure out how to download the app, blah, blah, blah. I can't be doing that right now. So I called the cab place and I said, can I have a cab here at, such and such location at this time? And he goes, that's not really how we work. Like, when you're ready, just give us a call and we'll be there. All right, cool. So I go up. Audition's at 4:30.
Mm-hmm.
Train leaves at 6. To your point, auditions are never really on time.
Yeah.
But you're like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Standard. They're behind pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm there, and there's a crowd of us. We all look the same, of course, and we're all dressed the same, look the same.
It's like all the agents in the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you're working on your stuff. You find a quiet place and you're working on it. But I'm looking at the clock, and I'm thinking about the train. And it's 4:15, 4:20. Okay, we're getting close. 4:30. Well, that's my time. 4:40, 4:45, 4:50. And I'm like, it's getting tight. Like I can just, you know what I mean? Yeah. I can feel the nerves starting to, and I'm more into that than I was into the task at hand, which is the audition.
Yeah.
So embarrassed to be telling you this. I already told you, but it was private. There's like 5 of you in a room. Like, who's going to tell? Yeah. And I would disavow the knowledge of ever telling you. But I pulled the biggest of rookie moves. I went up to the desk and I said, hey, my audition time was 4:30. I got a train I got to catch. Is there any way that you could get me in?
Yeah.
And God love them, they did. I mean, they bumped me over like 3 people, which it's a cardinal sin. Have your S together. You know what I mean? And that's what I should have done.
Yeah.
But from the get-go, from the jump, I was just off. You know what I mean? I didn't have that preparation. Mm-hmm. Not just the scene, but the whole plan of getting there, the whole thing. Anyway, I go in, and mind you, I've worked this thing. I know it. I go in, it's a director session. You got the casting director, producers, writer, the whole thing in this room. And the cold room, not just temperature, but you walk in there and it's here's this panel judging you, looking at you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're just there, deer in headlights a lot of times. So, we start the thing, we get into it a little bit, and all of a sudden, what's that word?
Oh.
You lose where you are.
It just hurts to hear it.
And I don't like to have a script in hand. I don't like the crutch.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's nothing wrong if you need to hold it. And sometimes you can use it for emphasis, you can pound it in your hand if you need to. You're playing like an attorney or something. But I don't like to have that. I like to be free and connect with the reader and as opposed to doing that.
Yeah.
So I had it, just under here. So I go off. And 3 seconds feels like 3 minutes of silence, of nothing. So, okay, take a look at the script. If you need to hold it, they said, if you need to hold the script, just go ahead. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Okay, cool. But I've got this. I've done this. You know what I mean? I know this stuff.
Yeah.
I got it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm good. All right, let's go. So the same place. Same place. The air goes out. It's nothing. This is just a failed, the whole day.
Yeah.
Just a wash, the whole thing. So you end, thank you for having me. Walk out, grinning like an idiot. Oh, it's such a great time. This is great. You walk out. Okay, bye everybody.
Yeah, I want to jump off the roof.
It's like 5:50 at this. Call the cab place. Hey, I'm gonna need a cab to pick me up. Yeah, it's rush hour. We're not gonna be able to get there for at least another hour. I'm like, okay, so I'm in no man's land.
Yeah. Jeez.
Meanwhile, they had to shut down the part of the street because they were shooting outside stuff. People, you couldn't figure out how to get to this place because there's like one ways and everything, and so it's like you're literally like in no man's land here. Meanwhile, I'm seeing everybody that was after me. They go and they get in their cars and they drive off. I'm like, I should have drove. I could just get in my car and go.
Yeah.
I'm standing there, and this is October, so it's starting to get a little cool. I've got like a suit on. That's it.
Yeah.
Standing. I've got 1% on my phone. Call my wife. Hey, call your sister's friend that lives here and see if now I'm starting to panic.
Yeah.
Like, how am I gonna get home? Like, I got no money for like a hotel or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just I borrowed someone's phone to call my wife because my phone was dead. Like, it was just unmitigated disaster. Yeah. I quit. I'm like, done.
Yeah.
Dude, I was bawling because that when you try your hardest and you just love something so much and it just evaporates in front of your face.
Yeah.
In an embarrassing fashion.
Yeah.
Like I was done. I quit. I quit. I'm like, let me just I flagged down some van that had a taxi sign. It was like the shuttle for the actors to get to set. But he's like, I don't normally do it, but yeah, man, I'll give you a ride to the train station, whatever. I was like,
well, that was nice of him. Jeez.
He was very nice.
Yeah.
So I get to this train station. Come to find out, if you miss your train, this is for everybody. If you miss your train, there's a bus that you can take at like 10:30 or 11:30 at night. You could trade in your ticket and take a bus back, which is what I did.
Yeah.
So I jumped on the bus and got back into town at like 5 a.m. Had a buddy pick me up, and it took everything out of me. I was just done, man. It was the worst. But when something like that happens, there's a lesson to be learned. I learned from that point on, I control when I leave
Mm-hmm.
the house, when I get there, how long it's going to take me, when I leave there. You know what I mean? I'm
Yep.
driving. I don't care what the gas is or anything like that, tolls and all that stuff. It's equal either way for me. But like, I need to be in control.
Mm-hmm.
I was not in control of the process. I left everything up to the train being on time, traffic, weather, the whole thing. Not necessarily knowing where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I had worked it out on film, camera, which is a big thing too. If you get an audition, and we have, we've got our phones and everything, like set it up and work it like
Yeah.
you're going to in the room. That way, when you walk in there, now, if they hand you a prop machine gun and tell you to read off cue cards, what are you going to, it's just like, okay, I'll just roll with it and try to have fun. But it goes back to preparation. The more you can prepare. I was all pissed off because I didn't get this. Oh, why did I get the sides early? Everybody gets the sides at the same time.
Yep.
So it's not this thing like you're at a disadvantage over another actor. We all got them at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you just got to prepare your best and go in there and give it your all. It's a very competitive business. But I like to use sports analogies.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a team sport. This is an individual sport. This is golf. This is the Olympics. Okay. A lot of times you're just going up against yourself.
Yeah.
Trying to be your best personal time or whatever.
That's a good
point.
point.
Some days you're going to prepare the right way and you're going to eke out that other actor, a tenth of a second or something like that. You're going to win. Yeah. You're going to get it. Other days, someone else is going to be there. So you just got to give it your all, but it's all about the preparation and that, like the nerves, we talked about the nerves.
Mm-hmm.
I was so thinking about the other stressors that I didn't focus on what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And that's when the nerves started to overcome,
Well, and that's why I appreciate and I thank you for telling that story, because I knew that story and I wasn't sure if you were going to say it, but the reason why I wanted you to was because anybody who's worked with you and who knows you knows that you're a pro. And I'm not just blowing smoke. I mean it. Like you always have everything together, or at least you appear to, and you always come prepared, and you always know what it takes to get what you want out of it, right? And so I think it's important to hear for people, for other actors, to hear that story, because like that sort of thing happens to everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not, people can look at actors like Leonardo DiCaprio or Matthew McConaughey or Denzel Washington or, whomever, Meryl Streep. You can look at actors who are at the top of their game and people probably think, well, they don't need to practice, or they don't really need to take classes or work with a coach, or they don't need to do all that stuff because they're successful. They've been doing it enough. It's it. But I bet you if you ask every single one of them, they will tell you that they still have days like, not necessarily your exact experience, but they have days on set where they're just like, they just flop and they can't get in it. They're in their head the whole time, because it happens to everybody. You know what I mean?
It happens to everybody. And that's the thing. There's no failure.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you want to use the word fail, there's a fail to prepare properly.
Yeah.
But we're all going in there and putting ourselves out there, emotionally, physically. We're all being judged.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of an off-putting thing, and that's why not many people can do this.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a very unique
industry. It feels like it's easy because it looks easy. It looks effortless, but it takes so much work to appear effortless.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other technical things that go into it. It's not just you and a camera. There's all these people and lighting, and you have to hit this spot, and
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and I was talking with Justin about it too, Justin, mm-hmm. and we had talked about how this is kind of the only industry where you can go in for an audition, understanding that there's a chance you might not get that job, but that audition can set you up for another job later.
Absolutely.
That doesn't happen in any other industry, I don't think. I mean, it's not like a doctor can go in, or somebody who's trying to be a doctor for brain surgery, and they're doing all this stuff, and they go, well, that's not going to work. But you know what? We think you'd make a great heart surgeon. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
here's a patient.
I could completely throw off that analogy. Could be terrible. I don't know. I'm not in the medical field, obviously, but
no, I mean, they're not going to give you a living human to operate on.
Exactly.
Go, okay, that didn't work out. This person did a better job.
They didn't make it.
Yeah. But you know what? We might have something else for you.
You know what?
Let's wheel in the next cadaver. This time. How do you feel about brain surgery?
This time, can you try to do some work on the lungs? Let's see how you do with that. Yeah.
Okay, so you're a pulmonary doctor, and there's a clot in the person's lungs, okay, and they only have 30 seconds to live. So if so that's just a little bit of backstory. All right, so in your own time, just go ahead and start cutting away.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Just start cutting away.
It is. Yeah. And you guys are right. And that was a great interview with Justin, by the way. Book the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Book the room. When you go into an audition, you're never going to get it on the spot. They're never going to go, oh my God, this. Yes. Thank you. When can you start? You know what I mean? Like, just
tell everyone else to go home.
Yeah. Just tell them to go home. It's never going to be that.
Mm-mm.
But if you go in there and you prepare, one, if you'd love to do this, you get a chance to do it.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 30 seconds, 10 minutes, whatever the audition lasts, you get to do something that you love to do that day. Yeah. And not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is your job. The job is the audition. You get to do something that you love to do. You get to release that, whatever it is, the creativity or pent up emotions or whatever, but you get to do it. And the other thing is, if you can make fans of people in that room, of the casting director or whoever's in there, to your point, yeah, whether you get this one or there's something else down the line, they're going to bring you back. They see something and they're like, they'll keep bringing you in. If you go in there and you continually just do your thing and do it well, they're going to have that confidence in you.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll keep bringing you in, and they'll fight for it a lot of times.
There's nothing worse than going into an audition and thinking that you left no impression at all. You know what I mean? Like I remember I had an audition. I've had some horrendous auditions, by the way. So like, don't feel bad about yours. I've had some.
Let's put you on the spot now. Let's hear some of yours.
All right. So,
you don't have to. If you want to go ahead and make your point.
No, I don't mind. Well, okay. So to my point real quick, is I had an audition one time where I went in there and I think I maybe made eye contact with the casting director once. Mm-hmm. Other than that, they were reading and they just had their face down in the you know, like they saw me walk in the room, they looked at me and they just went, and I was like, oh gosh.
It's confidence inspiring.
Yeah. And they didn't look at me again. And I kid you not, I left out of there and I was like, honestly, don't think that she actually even knows what I look like. Like, I don't think I think she already forgot what I looked like. And I had driven 3 hours for this. I was in the room for 5 minutes. It was for a Toll House cookie commercial. And they had me read, or they had me go in there with somebody, and they knew the girl. They were like, "Oh, how are you? It's great to see you, you know, and how's so and so doing?" and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Okay, all right."
You're standing there like a cheap suit.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
And they had us do a slate, and they told her, they said, "All right, go ahead and state your name, who you're represented by, your height, where you're from, blah blah blah," like a whole lineup thing. And then they said, "All right, okay, you're up." And I stood there and I said, "Okay, well, you know, what do you need me to say?" They said, "Just say your name and whether you're union or not." It's like, all right. And we had to improvise a conversation while eating cookie dough out of a jar. We had to improvise a conversation as if we both just got home from work. And they looked at her and they said, "Oh man, that was wonderful. That was great. Thank you so much." And they looked at me and they said, "All right, you have a safe trip." And I was like, "All right, see ya," you know. And it was horrendous. But my worst audition I've ever had, I was going to Michigan State University, and they have like these student run shows that they do. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, I had a lot of success in high school doing musical theater, you know, I got this, right? Come on, you know. And it was one of the first auditions I'd ever done. And you want to talk about rookie mistakes. I walked in and the room was dark and there was just a spotlight on a stool. And I see these tables. There was 2 rows of tables, and it was almost like in like you would see in a theater. Like there was one row was higher than the other, like stadium seating almost. And there was just these fold out tables. And I see a row of like 10 people sitting there. Well, I was always raised to be a gentleman. So I went up and shook every single one of their hands. And the awkward silence as I'm getting to like 6, person 7, person 8. And I'm introducing myself to every single one. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Patrick. Nice to meet you. Hi, I'm Patrick.
Hey,
nice
how
to
you
meet
doing? Patrick Harding.
Oh my gosh. And I kid you not, I thought afterward, you know, because and you never go up and shake their hands for whatever reason. You never do.
Unless it's offered.
Yeah. I was on my way to go shake their hand afterward too, and the guy just goes, "Nope, that's okay. Thank you." And I left. But I sat on the stool, and they said they asked me some questions. The questions were really weird, but I was trying to be confident. I was a nervous wreck, but I was trying to be confident. So I was almost doing like a character. Like I was this like chill, like, "Hey man," like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm great." And they asked me this question. They said, and it completely threw me off. And they said, "If you were to go travel around the world on a ship, what would you bring with you, and what type of boat would you have?" It had nothing to do with the show at all.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I said, and I kid you not, while I was trying to think, because I was terrible with awkward silence. And I was like, yeah, you know, that's a great question. I said, "What kind of ship would I take?" And I was like, "You know what? I would just take something modest, you know, I think just a little like a sailboat, you know." And I said, "I'd bring some music, you know, some food, obviously, and water." And they said, "Really? So you wouldn't have a big like yacht or anything? Is this something that's, you know, luxurious?" And then in my head, I'm like, "Oh, wait, is that what they're looking for?" And I said, "Well, you know what? No, that might be good." Yeah. And it just,
no.
The whole thing was terrible. And yeah, I had no idea audition technique. I had none of it. And I remember once I finally learned, I looked back at that audition. I said, "Wow." I said, I just butchered the crap out of it. And I thought that I played the scene well. So I was upset that I didn't get the role. And I was like, oh, well, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're looking for, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
You know, I just had my head so far up my ass and I didn't even know it, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
But you
but yeah,
lived.
but I lived and I learned from it. And that's important. You know, I think it's important to find a silver lining in everything. And the silver lining in that is learning what not to do and how to act. And it forced me to learn audition etiquette. So I was like, all right, I clearly did something wrong. Right.
Mhm.
So let me try to figure out what I did wrong and how I can improve so that way I can get roles later, you know?
Yeah.
And because of that, the next audition that I had, I landed a role. So, positives, but,
Sometimes, I mean, sometimes you have to fall on your face
yeah.
to learn the lesson. You know,
And I'm definitely
it's
that
not
guy.
always.
I'm definitely
I
that
see
guy.
I see the scars in the bum. Um, it's not always, you know, you read something in a book to learn it, or somebody tells you to do something or not do something, and you learn that way. Sometimes you have to experience it yourself. Just like, you know, as kids, sometimes you have to fall to
Mhm.
go, that was a bonehead move. I should not be jumping on or off of this thing because I gashed my face or I, you know,
Yeah.
twisted my ankle or something. You know what I mean? That was kind of dumb. I shouldn't have done that. Sometimes you have to fall,
Yeah.
you know, to move forward and to learn the lesson. So the thing, you know, not everything is going to go your way, and that's all right. You move forward, and you know, on to the next one. You
Yeah.
get them next time.
And as long as if it's something you really want to do, as long as you don't quit and give up and go, oh, woe is me, and you kind of wallow in your self-pity, you know, then you can be fine. But you know, and I've fallen into that trap before, you know, of the, oh, you know, I'm never getting, you know, I'm not getting anything, and I'm seeing so and so getting this and this and this, and I'm like, wow, man, but I thought I did a good job. Taking it personal when you
Yeah.
can't, you know, I mean, a lot of the times they know whether they want to book you or not within the first 5 seconds of you walking in the room, because they already have a vision of what the character looks like, for one. And then the performance comes afterward. That's just kind of icing on the cake.
There
Um,
are times where you can surprise them.
yes,
There are times
I have
where
yet to do
you
that.
can
Yes.
make them see something that they didn't consider.
Yeah.
Uh, Not all the time, but there are times. But yeah, there are a million reasons why you're not going to get a role, and it has nothing to do with your talent.
Yep. Yep.
It's, you
Well, it
know, you
could
look like
if you suck,
it
then it could.
could, right? But I mean, if you prepare like you're supposed to prepare, and you go in there and you do your thing, and you leave it all in there, great, you did your job.
Yeah.
If they like it, cool. If not, there's going to be another one. But you have to, you know, and getting back to confidence in your abilities. You have to be confident in your abilities and in yourself as a performer, to just leave it there and go, you know, this is it.
Yeah.
If you want it, great. If not, I'll see you another time.
And to kind of speak on that and that's another thing that I've noticed about you is the confidence that you bring to every role that you take on. Um, Especially like when you're working with some heavy hitters, like take for example Batman versus Superman, right?
Mhm.
You're in a scene with Ben Affleck. That's a heavy presence to be in a scene with, and that whole scene, you don't waver at all. You know what I mean? Like, because there are times where you can tell that there are, you know, that is like a featured role or whatever, and they kind of they don't fall flat, but um, or if somebody has multiple scenes, but with somebody who's been doing, you know, who's had a lot of success, and they're kind of like, ugh. But, and then like same thing with like 5 Year Engagement. I love that scene at the with the ambulance. I think it's hilarious with Jason Segel, you know, because every scene that you do, and it was another thing that my cousin had told me was like, I remember I'd asked him, you know, what was it like to work with, you know, Bradley Cooper on A Star Is Born, or Matthew McConaughey on True Detective or whatever, and he goes, I mean, I'm just working. They're colleagues, you know.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, but they're like, what? And he goes, no, no, no. He goes, you don't. He goes, then okay. He goes, now you're separating yourself from them. And he goes, you shouldn't. Have they had more success than you? Yes. Like, and he's talking to me, he's telling me, he said, has Bradley Cooper had more success than I have? Yes, he has. And he said, but I've also had a good amount of success for myself. But when you're there, they're just trying to work too. You're working, your colleagues. Don't separate yourself. And you can tell when people do that in scenes, and you don't do that. And I like that.
Yeah.
I really, really like that.
There's something, and it was around probably, well, first of all, the casting process for Batman vs Superman was crazy. And we can get into that some other time. But there was an interview with Matt Damon, and I saw it probably around, we shot that thing in 2015. I probably saw this interview 2013, 2014, somewhere in there. And it was from when he was on Saving Private Ryan. And they were on a break in between, setups and whatever. And he was talking with Tom Hanks about, Tom Hanks had done a movie with Jackie Gleason early in his career. And Jackie Gleason was like Mr. Hollywood, biggest name around, like a presence, like revered, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks because Damon was coming up at that time and working with some big people, Hanks included. And he said, how did you perform without getting nervous? Like, you must have been nervous, and Tom Hanks told him, he said, I made a decision, before that, coming into set, probably his first day, he's like, I'm not going to be nervous.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to be nervous, and whether that was a false kind of cloak he covered himself with, to walk in there and appear confident, over time, it just kind of becomes this thing. I'm not going to let the nerves take over. And, to your cousin's point, when you're there, you're equals.
Yeah.
Yes, they may have been great in this movie. This is a new movie.
Yep.
And so they need you to perform, so they have something to work against. Because their back's up against the line too a lot of times. You know what I mean? They have to be great.
Yeah.
So they've got pressure on themselves. You're putting, and it's about being peers in that moment. And there's no, the egos go out the window. You're just kind of in this thing. And again, the sports analogy, when Michael Jordan was playing, and they could have been down 10 points, but each possession, he's thinking it's 0-0.
Yeah.
We're tied.
Yep.
And each one, boom. That you go in with that mindset of we're on equal footing now. And little by little, you start, to build that confidence. So you walk into any set you go on, any scene, any day, like every day is different. You could have killed it yesterday. It was just all working. It was clicking. And then today you can't get it back, and you're thrown, and oh my God, you're thinking to yourself while you're doing a scene, this guy's kicking my ass, or this girl's like, really, she's giving it everything, and I just can't get there. You know what I mean? And so you can't be nervous. It has to be about the work. And the more you can, focus on that and dive into that, all that fan stuff and all that kind of goes out the window. And again, it goes back to preparation.
Yep.
The more you can prepare, the nerves aren't there because you walk in confident. You know what you're doing. You know how you're going to do it, what your motivations are, so you're not winging it.
Yeah.
Some people can wing it. Some people can do that, and that's a special gift. Other people, I am a bit more technical. I come from a theater world. So I like to know what I'm doing, and I've rehearsed it to the point where it looks like I'm just coming up with it.
Yeah.
But it's all meticulously planned, a lot of it,
Yep.
especially when you get into the technical aspects of the framing and how much you can move, and God forbid there's an action that you have to do, push somebody or hit somebody or what, like it all has to be kind of planned out.
Yeah.
So it plays, but that's another.
Yeah, you could dive into that for hours
Oh,
and hours,
right. That's a whole class.
but
So
it is
as you
true.
know.
And to kind of talk about the work, and I appreciate you sending it to me, because I hadn't got a chance to dive into it deep yet, but the whole tax incentive thing,
Mm-hmm.
that conversation, and it always seems like that tax incentives being brought back to Michigan, it always seems like that resurfaces every few years, but there's never really any, there's never really any momentum behind it. But this time it seems like there is, and I did listen to that interview, um, and I like what I believe his name was Brian Kelly. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, with MIFA, and in terms of trying to bring some tax incentives back here to Michigan for filming, and I think that'd be awesome. Um, I had been told, and it didn't sound like this was the case, which is great, but somebody had told me that they were basically just going to be proposing the same plan that was in place beforehand. Um, and after listening to this guy, I'm glad to know that that's not the case, because there's a reason that plan didn't work before. The biggest problem with the program that we had years ago was that there was nothing that would help bring some stable work for Michigan residents, Michigan people. I mean, actors, crew, whatever. What would happen inevitably was Hollywood would bring in their own crew. They'd bring in their own cast, and the only money that was being made here in Michigan was by restaurants, catering companies, and hotels. There was no production offices that were really being set up. There was no percentage of the crew or cast that had to be Michigan crew or cast.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really any of that, and it sounds like that's what they're trying to do with this, because Atlanta, they adopted the same exact program that we had. They just added those clauses of there has to be a certain percentage of cast, crew that are Georgia residents,
Yeah.
and then inevitably, I mean, and then what would happen was it would create more work because there would be production offices that would open. Obviously restaurants and hotels and everything were still getting more business, but but it was the whole thing turned out to be an extremely positive program for them. And look at them now. I mean, Atlanta's huge now. I mean, Tyler Perry just built, I think there's 12 sound stages on this massive property
Mm-hmm.
for his production offices there,
It's booming. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that's what can come here. But and I may have some of the details wrong, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on all that?
I would love to see it. And there has been talk about it in the past. I remember, a couple years ago, there was a bill being floated around that was getting bipartisan approval, and everything was great. And then we get in to the new administration. Okay, there's some things we need to tackle first before we can go, oh, hey, by the way, we want a film incentive.
Yeah.
The public is not going to go for that when you have all these other things. And then COVID hit, and but from listening to the interview, it sounds like there is a viable plan, and using Atlanta and Illinois and Ohio as the blueprint. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, so Atlanta like pulls down, I think I saw a figure one time, it was like close to $9 billion.
Good grief.
Is it 9? No, I'm way off on that. I'm trying to remember the number. So they bring in X amount, but a dollar changes hands relatively 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they're making 3 times. So the actual, dollar amount in is this, but when you factor in, I pay you to be in a movie, you take some of that money and you take your now wife out to dinner. Congratulations, by the way.
Oh,
You take her out to dinner and maybe some gambling at the casino or something. You stay at the hotel, right? Now, those people, that's bringing money into their pockets.
mm-hmm.
They take that and they're paying their staff. So it changes hands. You know what I mean? Like, that's a true like trickle down.
Yeah.
You know, and so they factor in that 3 times. Atlanta is booming.
Yeah.
And so if we can just get a little bit of that, you know, in the beginning, and make it work. The problem with the incentive last time, and this isn't, they're calling it a tax credit, not an incentive.
Yeah.
And the verbiage is, you know, it's kind of technical, but there's a reason for it. But what the problem was the last time was it was very vague, and it left a lot of room for, you know, misinterpretation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Snyder, when he cut it, he was throwing out this, you know, for every dollar they pay, they get 42 cents back on that. That's just fiscally irresponsible and da 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 da. And depending on how you look at it, it could be true, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but no one was getting 42%, because that would have meant they had to do all Michigan crews, catering, cast,
Yeah.
you name it. They were probably getting somewhere in the 20s, 25% back range,
Mm-hmm.
but you never heard that. You're always hearing this outrageous number. That's a possibility, but it was never a reality.
Mm-hmm.
So the more specific you can be, and I think Atlanta took that and goes, okay, we need to be specific. You need to have X amount of Georgia crew, X amount of Georgia actors, and you know, catering and all that stuff. You know, you have to be specific when we talk about that stuff. So there is no room for political football.
Yeah.
You know, you have to, and by using Atlanta as a blueprint, you can say, okay, here's how it works.
Yeah.
Here are the numbers. You know,
yep.
You can see it works now. When we had it, there was no other competition around. We were it. You know, Illinois is always going to have their stuff. They were hot and heavy on commercials and you know, some television shows and everything. But that was really it when we had it. We were the Hollywood of the Midwest. And when it left here, it went to Atlanta, and they took, again, sometimes we have a bad audition, but we learn the lesson. Atlanta learned the lesson from our bad audition.
Yeah.
And they turned it around and made it into something that works. And so if we can use that as a blueprint, I mean, you know, you and Justin talked about it. You got the sand dunes.
Oh man,
you want a desert
here.
The Great Lakes, that might as well be an ocean. I mean, you can't see across the thing.
Yeah.
We got the fall colors. We have snow.
You got the farmland. Big city.
You have it all.
Right. You literally, you have it all.
You have it all. And listen to everybody that comes through here. Now you got John Hamm, who is just in Soderbergh's thing.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg, you know, is a huge champion for us. Jason Momoa loves it here. Everybody that comes through here loves it here.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have a viable product.
Yep.
It's just about getting it into the right hands and you know, changing some minds. And so I'm hopeful that it comes back here, because, you know, you got a lot of talent here. A lot of talented filmmakers, actors like yourself. It's ripe for a resurgence, a renaissance, and I hope it happens.
Well, I just think, you know, if it can be done right, there's not really a downside. I don't see one. If it's done right. If it starts getting political, and if it starts getting vague, like you said, like I honestly, I understood why it went away. At first I was like, oh man, this sucks. But diving deeper into it, I understand why it went away. Because there wasn't a whole lot of benefit for Michigan here in the first program. But if it can be done kind of based off of those like Georgia and Illinois and Ohio, if it could be modeled closer to them, and being, like you said, being specific on exact percentages and numbers and everything, then I think it could be a huge, if you want to just talk solely money, I think it could be a huge moneymaker here for for Michigan, because like you said, a lot of people, when they come here and when films come here, they love it. And even like Steven Soderbergh for that No Sun Move, I mean, it takes place in Detroit, I believe, and I remember seeing an interview that he had said, he goes, I know it's more expensive to film there. He said, and I know a lot of like based in Michigan films film in Cleveland or whatever. He said, but no, I love filming there. I'm gonna film there, even
Yeah.
if it's more expensive. I'm gonna film there.
Yeah.
And that was really exciting to see, because I think it'll hopefully give filmmakers more of that umph of like, man, if this guy's willing to pay more money to go just because this, he likes this place so much, then, oh, well, let's check it out.
Yeah.
And then if the program comes in, they're like, oh man, we can get some of that money back. Yes, let's do it. So
You have to make it enticing,
yeah,
in a way, but also still responsible on your end.
Yep.
Another thing too that kind of killed it was these big budget films.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're exciting, but the Transformers and all that stuff, and I was in one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is great, but you work one day
Yeah.
as an actor or as a crew, you work for a couple months, maybe. That doesn't sustain you.
Mm-mm.
But if you can do, for every one big budget movie, you could probably do 10 to 15 smaller budget movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when one ends, there's another one coming up, and you get people working the whole year round, as opposed to one day or a couple weeks. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
More independent films, more television.
That's huge.
Commercials.
Television. Streaming service originals, and that would
we can just
huge.
Do it right.
Yeah. Yeah. Really.
We can just do it right. But I'm hopeful.
And it does seem like that Brian, well, after listening to him speak, it does seem like they have a good plan as to and they are focused on doing it right. So
yeah,
let's just let's hope and pray that it works out. But one thing I did want to bring up that I found, and I don't know why there wasn't hearing more about it. I guess it's significant, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's not as significant. But I came across a story actually this morning from something that happened in Minnesota back at the beginning of last month, or the beginning of December. But there was and this is totally off of film and everything. This is just a thing of good news that I thought was cool. There was a Minnesota Dairy Queen that had over 900 customers in the drive-thru start a pay it forward chain and paid for the next person.
Oh, wow.
It went on for over 3 days. And there was more than $10,000 in sales from this pay it forward chain.
Holy cow.
And so much so that they had an interview with the general manager, and she had said that one of her employees at one point had said, well, the next person's bill is like $50. Like, are you sure you want? And they said, yeah, let's do it. After already buying their own meal for their family and everything. But like 900 people. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I want to see more.
Yeah.
And especially in times like now, where there seems to be, where it's not, there doesn't seem to be, there is so much division and so much hate going around, and so much fear and so much anger, and so much of that it was astonishing to me to see that 900 people just in this town in Minnesota could do something like that. Like, that's the kind of stuff that gives me hope that, like, you know, at the end of the day, we'll be okay, you know?
As a people, we are inherently good.
Yeah.
We have, you know, obviously the capability for evil or wrong or bad or however you want to phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
Deep down, we all want the same things. You know,
Yep.
we all want love. We all want food, you know, shelter, all those things. We just might have different ideas on how to get that.
Yeah.
You know, so in the end, it's not red and blue. It's me and you. You know, in hearing stories like that, it gives you hope. Little gestures.
Yeah.
Little gestures can go a long way. It's like, you know, the pebble and in the water or whatever, the ripple effects.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one little thing, you know, you get enough ripples in there, you start to make some waves. You know, so yeah, that's really inspiring. I hadn't heard that story.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, to
But yeah.
me, I feel like that's something that's worth getting out there all over. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it took me over a month to hear about it.
Yeah.
You know, and one thing that I thought was cool was, I remember when Brad Pitt was on the award circuit for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think it was maybe his Golden Globe or the SAG award or something for that he won. At the end of his speech, after everybody clapped and everything, he said, "Hey," he said, and I could be wrong on the exact wording, but he said, "If you get the opportunity to be a light in somebody's life, take it. I think we could all use it right now."
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it's something so simple, but how often do you really, you know, look at your day and go, how can I make somebody's day? How can I make somebody else's day today? You know, because we get so wrapped up in everything that we're doing and trying to make sure that we're all okay and we're settled and everything. But I think if more people started, and myself included, I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, everybody should do this like I do. I don't do this all the time either. But I think if everybody woke up every morning and one of their first few thoughts is, if I see an opportunity to even just give someone a smile, or if I see an opportunity to reach out to somebody if they seem down or whatever, and just say, hey, I'm here for you, I think we could do a lot of good. And I know that sounds kind of pie in the sky, you know, but I think it's, you know, I think it's definitely something that we can help change the mindset to a more positive, caring mindset, be more compassionate and trust in each other. I think it could go a long way.
Absolutely. Yeah. We like to think in terms of these big sweeping moments and gestures. It doesn't have to be that. To your point, just reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while, you know?
Yep.
Let someone know that you're thinking about them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that alone,
yeah,
you make someone's day. And they might take that and go, you know what? They reached out to me. I'm going to reach out to someone that I haven't talked to in a while, you know? Yeah, it's the little things.
I can't tell you how many times there's been moments where, and I've got one friend of mine who, and I don't even think he knows this, but he's really good at doing this unintentionally, is I'll get a text or a call from him at a time where, like, I could use it. And it's always right on time. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
It's always on time. And just to, you know, like, I'll answer it and I'll be like, hey man, what's going on? He said, oh man, I just want to check in, see how you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's like that stuff, man, that goes a long way. And yeah, so I hope we can start to do a little bit more of that.
We need that connection. We need that, especially now, you know, we've all been kind of isolated and withdrawn to some degree, and hopefully that starts to turn around.
I hope so.
But you know, there are things that we can do to brighten someone's day, even while we're, kind of in this whole thing. We have the ability at our fingertips to make a difference, and you just have to be open to that. Because this shit we get bogged down by stuff, and that's natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's natural to we got a lot on our plate, and but if there is a moment to, like you say, do something for someone, take it.
Yeah.
Be the light, Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great.
Well, hey, I got one more thing for you at the end of the show. I like to do this segment called The Goods. Rifle off some questions and kind of pick your brain and see where you're at. So let's get started, shall we?
If I was the ship, what kind of ship would I be?
What kind of ship would you be? Would you be a yacht? Would you be a sailboat, a paddle boat? Okay, so what is your favorite movie of all time and why?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, that was boom.
I know. I only do dramatic stuff, and everybody sees me, and I'm all intense. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off is my favorite movie of all time. I can quote it back and front. I don't know why. I saw it when I was 6 and loved it. I tapped into it.
Yeah.
I got it. I tried to do the whole licking the palms and faking stomach cramp and all that stuff. I went right down the list. And then I realized that my mom had an in-home daycare and she would be home all day. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. I was like, how am I going to, I can't go to a baseball game with her watching me all day. I was like 12. I love that movie. I love that movie.
Okay. That's good. And the fact that it goes all the way back for you too. I like that. That's
from childhood. Yeah. God, I love that movie. Because you said you always do dramatic stuff typically. And so what attracts you to a character? It could be a number of things. It's never just one thing, a particular theme, or sometimes it's the ability to work with someone I haven't worked with before. Like I'm just happy to work with this person because I've heard a lot of good things or whatever, and just excited to, get some new blood. In terms of a character, every character is a challenge. There are times where, okay, I played this character a few times. Let's try to do something different. I mean, that's one thing I might look for. But sometimes it comes down to the writing. The writing is just so good. Just the opportunity. But every character is different, and sometimes you can play one character at a certain point in your life and then play a similar character at another point in your life, and two totally different performances, because you're just you have a different mindset, a different outlook. Things have happened in your life that, so a lot of times it's where is this character coming from? How much do I have to dig to get to the root of this person? And I just love the process. There's never really one answer for taking a role over another. Sometimes it's I haven't worked in a while. I just want to do it. Go. I'm great on this. So there's just a bunch of reasons for making something on.
Is there a director that you would love to work with and haven't worked with yet?
Top of mind, Cameron Crowe. I love his movies. Almost Famous, Vanilla Sky, going back to Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He's a solid storyteller, and the deep musical knowledge that he brings to it. And I really like his story. So top of mind, Cameron Crowe, of course, Scorsese and Spielberg and all those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
love to just be in a room. I don't even care how big the role is, just to
Just
be
to watch them
amongst
work.
them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a lot, and you know, I'm sure there's many that I haven't even considered. But Cameron Crowe, there's something about Cameron Crowe. I love his movies.
Well, that's how it was when Chris Nolan is at the top of mine. To me, I think he's brilliant. And but to kind of go to your point when you were saying you just kind of want to be in the room. So the Russo brothers have a new film coming out called Cherry, and Tom Holland's in it. There's a few other names that are escaping me, but I saw it was just an extra casting for it. But I knew like the Russo brothers were doing it, you know, and just coming off of Endgame. And so it was one of those things where it's like, you know, because I typically, it's not that I don't like to or don't want to do extra work anymore. I've done it, you know, and I always end up walking out of there kind of disappointed because it's just a cattle call, really. So some people can make a career off of it. But, you know, for me, I always want to, I don't know, I always want more. I want to be in those conversations. I'm not looking for, you know, like, oh, I want to be the star. But I kind of want to be around it, and you don't really get to be when you're an extra. They bring you in for the scene and then they shuffle you out. And but what was cool was being able to be there and watch the Russo brothers work was so cool. Made the whole thing worth it to me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I mean, in total, I lost money on it. You know, I mean, it was in Akron, Ohio. I had to get a hotel. I'm getting paid, you know, what the extras get. It's like, you know, $8 an hour or $10 an hour.
Right.
For 12 hours or whatever it is. And, you know, got to put on a military uniform. I guess that was cool, but definitely lost money. And, but to be in that scene, to just watch them work and watch them interact was so cool. And watch that crew was insane how efficient they were. I mean, when we got done, it was in a gymnasium. That was the scene was in a gymnasium at a school. And when we got done, when they were done shooting that, or with that setup, they had to go to a different location. I kid you not. When I walked out, when they walked us out of the gym, I went and changed. And then we had to walk back through the gym. They had everything cleared out completely.
Wow.
By the time I was done changing and put my stuff back on and then turned my uniform in, everything was gone. And I remember the shuttle that they had for all of us extras. There was a guy that was standing there. He was waiting for the shuttle to come. Well, there was a delay in the shuttle. And I remember the guy looking at his watch, and he just goes, "Oh, son of a," and then he opens the door and he goes, "So just so you guys know, we are over the 8 hours. So you guys will be getting time and a half for another bit of the, you know," like he was trying to be super nice. And then the second he closed the door, he goes, "Mother," you know, and I'm like, "Oh, you know, I'm going to hear it later, you know?" But yeah, just to be able to watch them work was,
it was worth the hit, worth the loss.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Pay, but the experience. Yeah.
Yep. And I would do it again. You know, it was one of those things I would do it again and I wouldn't think twice. So, okay. So what is your go-to drink of choice? If you're trying to relax and, you know, kind of veg out and chill out, what's your go-to drink?
I'm what the kids call basic. So just give me a bottle of Bat Blue and
okay. All right.
I'm good.
All right.
I'm good. Nothing fancy. If yeah, you know, sometimes I'll do like a scotch and soda or something like that. But the wild days are behind me.
Yeah. I'm more of a whiskey.
I learned lessons.
Oh yeah.
You're a whiskey guy?
Yeah, I'm a whiskey guy. I like Tullamore Dew. I'm a big fan of Tullamore Dew, and you know, and I still got buddies that'll, you know, they'll be chugging beers and they'll go through a whole 6-pack in a night or something. Be like, nah, just give me a glass or two of whiskey and I'm good. Okay, so all right. Now you said you have a theater background. So, what do you prefer, theater or film?
Film. It's not even that big a, I don't know why I took that dramatic pause.
A lot of thought behind that.
Just cut that out of post. I like them both. I love the immediacy of theater. I love the live aspect. There's a heightened kind of energy that comes with that. I don't know if I talked about this in class, but I love this quote. There's a film. There's a package of movies that Al Pacino did. Little projects that he directed. Great little films. But then there's one of him just kind of talking about the craft of acting and where he got started at the Actors Studio in New York, and they were talking about the difference between film and theater. In theater, it's like going to the circus and you got the guy walking across the tightrope. Everybody, it's like stunts. Stunts is the closest thing on a film set to like live theater, because you're just on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
If it goes great, you're hooting and hollering, but there is that chance that something could go wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's that heightened kind of thing. Like, you cannot, someone blows a line, you need to figure it out.
Yep.
Right there. There is no cut, Yeah. So so you have this person trying to get from one spot to another, walking across this tightrope. Well, with film, it's the same energy. You have to have the same energy, but the line is painted on the ground. And so there is room for, okay, well, I stumbled here. Okay, cut. Let's go back. But you have to have that where, theater, you do a performance from start to finish, all the way through chronologically. And then tomorrow you get to do it again.
Yeah.
Film, you do a take and you might do it again. And so you don't have that 24 hours to go. There was a show I did, Streetcar. It was like one of our last performances, and I came up with something. I was like, I'm going to try this tomorrow night. This little thing. That if I was to do film and I hadn't done my homework and I didn't think about it in the moment, that moment would be gone. And so it's a heightened kind of focus and awareness on a film set, because you might get 1, 2, maybe a couple more takes. And then that scene is done. There is no tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's no 24-hour, let me think about it. And what if I tried this? It would, like, you got to do it now. But every note I ever got doing theater was, we can't hear you. Too quiet. And I'm just a quiet, reserved kind of guy. So I like having the mic. I like having a boom mic, that can pick up, because I like those conversations. That
Sorry, go ahead.
We can just talk.
Yeah.
And it's that moment and the camera's here and I don't have to do anything but talk to you, as opposed to, Patrick, we need to kill this guy, and like trying to
like whisper yelling,
trying to reach that person in the back row, but still have this intimate moment. Like, you can do it, and I've done it, but I prefer the intimacy of film as opposed to theater. I love theater. I love the fundamentals I learned, the focus, the discipline that is required. On a film set, I don't care, stage or on a set, you have to be focused. And theater kind of gives you those tools. So I'll always be grateful for theater. I'd love to do it again someday. But film is kind of where my heart is at.
My common note was always, I was being too subtle. Oh, it would get to the point where, like, sometimes our director, if he was having a day where he was kind of just, he was kind of in a bad mood, but we still had to rehearse and everything, that sometimes he'd sit back there and he would just go, "The audience can't see it." And I'd kind of stop.
But you saw it.
Yeah. And I kind of saw, well, because he would know what I was doing and he would know what I was trying to do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but he was like, he'd be like, the person in the back row won't be able to see that facial expression, they're that eye roll. But I'm glad that he did that because, because he was also our choir teacher as well. And he was, and I've had many, like great teachers. But he was hands down the best teacher I've ever had. And I'm so glad that he would push me the way he did because he kind of helped me find my threshold, if that makes sense. On okay, depending on the medium, depends on okay, what's my kind of frequency level, I guess, in terms of subtlety, or am I going too big, or
Mm-hmm.
am I finding that sweet spot? He helped me find my barriers on each of those, and I'll forever be grateful for that because it's really helped me since. And obviously I'm still working on it and still, you can never really be perfect. But yeah, that was always my note was, I was good at the subtle things,
Mm-hmm.
but for stage, it doesn't work out as well.
Right.
Um, and so that's why I think I naturally kind of gravitated toward films because the camera can pick up those subtle things. So yeah, that was always that was always my note also. Um, so my final question is, what are some methods that you practice or put in place that help keep you centered and have a positive outlook on things?
Jeez. Um, what are some methods?
Like if you can feel yourself kind of starting to drop or get down or start to maybe mentally go to a place where you necessarily don't want to be in, what do you do to help, kind of slingshot your way back?
I am extremely lucky that I have a wife who's supportive. Um, that we can talk, we can bounce things off. We're each other's soundboards.
Mm-hmm.
When one's having a bad day, the other one picks them up.
Yeah.
We kind of when one's here, the other one is right here, and we find a way to do this. I have two beautiful daughters that you know we play, and you can get away from the bad things that are happening, and just to focus on what they're doing is it's a refresher in itself. You can just forget about everything and be silly and dance and do those things, and you know you kind of wake up and go, that was really fun. I feel better.
Yeah.
It's something about maintaining that kind of innocent play. You try to hold on to. Kids have it right. Kids know what they're doing,
Yeah, they do.
and I think we need to pay more attention um, to that. We give them more credit than maybe a lot of adults do. We need to play more. Need to
Yeah.
have more fun. We're only on this ride once, so yes, there are things that we need to do, important things, and um, but if you can try to have fun and make someone happy, and getting back to that, do it. Take those opportunities. So those are probably a couple things I wish I could say. I do guided meditation and things like that. I've
Oh
tried it,
man.
but it's
It's
too
all about
much
what works for you, man. And
noise.
and the fact that, I mean, you're able to, your family's able to be that for you, be that support for you is great. And I think that's incredibly healthy. And it's better than the opposite. It's better than the
Sure.
alternative.
Yeah.
And I think you're very lucky and blessed to be able to have that. And, you know, because not everybody does. And, and it seems like you know that, and you don't take that for granted. And that's good. That's good. So, well, hey man, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you talking with me for a little bit.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude, this was great. I had a great conversation with you. I thought it was awesome. I had a great time. But yeah, man. So I hope week 1 we can work together at some point, and 2, I hope to have you back on if you want. So
I love it.
you're always
I
welcome.
love it. I love both. Yeah, let's do it. 2021, man. Let's make it happen.
All right, brother.
All right.
All right. And that wraps up the next episode of The Good Life. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for watching if you're on YouTube. Thank you for listening if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Please like, subscribe, share, check out everything that Chris is doing, check out everything that I'm doing if you want. And yeah, and I hope you come back. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you enjoy the podcast that I've been putting out. And if not, well, sorry. Thanks.